your role in the promises of God. Hi, everyone. We have a role to play with the promises of God coming to pass in our lives. God made a promise to Abraham, and he said, I will make you a father of many nations. But it came with instructions, and a lot of faith was required from Abraham. And it was a journey to the promise. Okay? The same way with the Israelites when they left the land of Egypt, they had that promise and that faith that the Lord will lead them to the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey. But we must also recognize the role we have to play, we, the modern Israel, that we cannot just sit at home and want to pray and fast and hope that the promises are fulfilled. It would be nicer if we could just do that and leave it all up to God and leave it all up to chance, but it doesn't work like that. Do you see the action that had to be put by Abraham and the Israelites to get to the promise? We are no different, or we are not special. Okay? Now, the law of cause and effect is equivalent to the law of sowing and reaping. So let us understand that for something to happen, something must happen before. Okay? So the Lord has given you a promise, and the Lord is waiting on you to act. There are different acts that could be required. You can pray, that is good. We can pray, we can fast. And another important thing to do is to declare the promises of the Lord out loud, audibly. Another thing we can do is to create space. As we create space, it's a form of faith. It's us showing the Lord that we believe. It's an act of faith. But for some, an act of faith, it needs to be something bigger than that. It may require you to move. It may require you to move. And for some, it may require you to leave your current job. But sometimes a person can be afraid. But don't worry, because God's will be done against all odds. Joseph was loved so dearly by his father. Yes, Joseph, the boy with the coat of many colors. I do not see how any angel was going to convince him to leave his father and to go in training in another country, in a foreign land, to learn what it is to be a leader. Because that's what he needed training. He can't just be taken and put in such a big seat of honor without any prior training. No. God is a God of excellence. Training, proper training needs to be put in place. A person needs to pass through the training, through the test, and all of that. Okay? So for some, they may be afraid. Don't worry. If it's a job that you're supposed to leave and you refuse to leave, no stress. The Lord will just increase the heat. It will get hot and you will leave. If it's a relationship, a toxic relationship you're supposed to work out of, or a relationship you need to work out of, and you're still holding in there for dear life, the Lord is turning up the heat. You will leave. God has no problem creating circumstances or bringing people to help to push things, to help to get this wheel turning. Okay? Let us look at Joseph. It took Joseph's brothers to send him to the foreign land. The boy would never have left. No, he never would have left. And who else who needed a push? So whatever push that you need, God will make sure that you get it so that God's will is done. So that God's will is done. So let us remember that with the promises that God has given us, we have a role to play. We have a role to play. And God's plans are not going to be put on hold because we still have insecurities, because we still have fears. No, the Lord will put the pressure on. It's about to get hot. It's about to get hot. Circumstances will help you. Let us look at Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. What about them? How were they ever going to leave their home country to go to a pagan nation for training? Like, the Lord knew. Like, even if he were to send an angel, it was going to be a problem. So the Lord allowed King Nebuchadnezzar to besiege Jerusalem and to capture the Jews. And that's when these four young men were given that opportunity to be trained. And that it was an opportunity to them. It was like, oh, our God has forsaken us, you know, or oh my gosh, the people have sinned, now we're being captured. It didn't look pretty. Circumstances that will push you to your next level may be pleasant or unpleasant, mostly unpleasant. Either way, God's will be done. For those of you still holding on to things, still holding on to people, you are on a countdown. You are just on a countdown. At the end of the day, you will walk yourself to this promise. God wants the promise for you more than you want it for yourself. And if God has to turn up the heat, God will turn up the heat. God will turn up the heat up until you finally leave it all behind and you decide to go where God wants you to go or to do what God wants you to do. It's all in your hands at the end of the day. So, yeah, we do have a role to play in the promises coming to pass, fortunately or unfortunately. So, yeah, thank you. Love you guys. God bless.